Appreciate you being here. So right at it, right? Went right to work. Obviously a tremendous opportunity. Going on the road again for the second time this year, actually leaving the state for the first time. And against an excellent football team, really talented, well coached, high level play in all three phases, and open to questions.
With SMU, with what Brett Lashley's been able to do since he got there 4 years ago, just what stands out about how he's built that program and the challenges you're going to be facing with them on Saturday?
Sure, there's a lot. I mean, I'll start with their defense. I mean, they in so many statistical categories, they're top 15, top 5, top 3, forcing turnovers, stopping the run, red zone defense, sacks. You know, I believe they're somewhere in the top 3, top 4 in sacks as well. So, very disruptive, create a lot of pressure. Difficult situations for the offense, mix up their coverages really well, the ability to play man and zone really well. And they can roll them in. They've got a lot of players in a really good rotation. Offensively, obviously they've scored a lot of points for a long time. He's been calling it for a long time and has done a great job, and certainly a lot of explosive playmakers in all areas with a really good and physical offensive line, as well as a quarterback that can beat you with his arm, with his feet, by extending plays, but has become an excellent pocket passer as well. So really impressive football team.
Obviously with SMU, there's a lot of ex-Miami guys over there, players. Obviously Brett Lashley was here. There's a couple guys on staff who were here at different points in time. Is it obviously that's part of football, college football these days, but it's a little odd, you know, when there's so many familiar faces on the opposite sideline?
I think it's part of football. I think you see that on a weekly basis nowadays. Maybe 10 years ago that wasn't the case. But now it is, you know, and at the end of the day, the guys, the 22 guys on the field are the ones that are going to have to execute right on both sides of the ball. So I'm sure both sides are equally excited for the opportunity on Saturday.
What allows SMU to be so successful at forcing turnovers, particularly? It seems like fumbles, they do a good job of.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, they've got great eyes, great eye discipline, and when they get to the football, they get there with a disposition to force that thing to come on out. And I feel like just watching them on film, they have a great feel for what the guy next to them is doing. So when they close on ball carriers, on quarterbacks, on receivers, they leverage the ball really, really well. Their disposition when they get there is one of physicality to force stuff out, but they're very athletic. They've got very good balance and body control. So if they're in the vicinity, no more times than not, it ends up in their hands. So you've got to do a really good job being disciplined with what you run to disallow them from being in great position to, you know, create something in their favor.
Mario, with the ACC schedules, there's a lot of teams not going to face each other, just the way it is. Mm-hmm. This is one of those opportunities that you're going to face a team that essentially you control your own destiny. Just your thoughts on that you will have this opportunity, your team has this opportunity.
Sure. Yeah, tremendous opportunity. You know, besides the fact you're playing a great team, it's another conference game. Like we've talked about all year long, every single game that you play, even out of conference games, they're all playoff games. They all have value, right? And then when you head into conference play, as the weeks go by, right, the level of difficulty and importance just continues to elevate. So for us, it's always about a 1-0 focus, making sure that we take care of our business, making sure that we are preparing in the manner of whether it be a walkthrough, a meeting, a practice, that we're preparing to our standards so that we can execute to the best that we possibly can. So that's our approach.
Mario, Marquise Lightfoot got a little bit more of an expanded role last week with came out. Just what did you think about how he did and him being able to step up when you guys needed him to?
Hot and cold, you know, he flashed, did some things. The detail of his game, the discipline of his game has to improve. Which we expect him to. I mean, a very promising young player, a great young man. Certainly was good to get him in there, and thought he did, again, some good things, but we will make sure that he invests more time and that we invest more time in him to get some of those details ironed out to elevate his level of play. But I thought a lot of those guys that jumped in there on the defensive line played well, the young guys. I thought Third Scroggins played really good football. Mondo's not a young guy anymore. I know he should be a freshman due to him being an early enrollee in a reclass. Mondo played great football for us as well. Dante got in there and played some really meaningful snaps, had a tackle for loss, some other good plays. Who else played in there? Booker Pickett went in there and did some really nice things as well. So all in all, just a very strong performance by the defense, and a lot of young guys got some good playing time.
Mario, I know you said after the game Friday and then again on the radio this morning that Akeem's close to playing on Saturday. Do you anticipate him being available on this Saturday or still up in the air?
We do. We expected him last week. We don't put a guy on there as probable. We probably err on the side of optimism more times than not, but we follow directions from the medical staff and felt good about it then, feel good about it now.
And then in the run game, I was crunching the numbers this morning, and you guys are running up the middle, or between the tackles, I should say, a little bit more frequently this year than in years past. Is that just a matter of personnel, situation? Is there thinking about, or is it a process behind that, or just coincidence, I guess?
Is there a process by how we run the ball?
Or I guess is there a reason you guys are kind of running between the tackles more often this year than in the past, or is it just kind of coincidental?
Gotcha. Okay. Now I want to understand your question so I could answer it to the best of my abilities. Everything we do has a process, and anything game planned is because it gives us the best opportunity. Sometimes it's designed to go between the tackles. Sometimes it's designed to stretch things out a little bit more and may end up between the tackles. Sometimes we bank on something getting spilled on a counter and bouncing outside. Sometimes we think we can kick out a boxer and get inside. But I think the run game here for us has been pretty successful for a long time. We do face some loaded boxes. Sometimes it's successful and sometimes not as successful, but it is thoroughly planned. We're always looking for an advantage in the form of a formation, in the form of an extra hat, in the form of numbers, and in the form of leverage. So that's what goes into game planning the run game, and we're always looking for ways to improve that in every part of our program.
Your cornerback rotation of Ethan O'Connor, Damari, Xavier all had about equal reps, a little bit less for OJ's. How did you see that group last week, and just how do you feel about the depth having guys who were able to rotate in out there?
Right. Well, we think that group really, they played well, first and foremost, and the rotation was due to what we've seen in practice every single day. They earned the playing time. They did. And it starts with communication. You see the guys, we were in much better position and executed calls this week that maybe we didn't a week before. And more time invested, more, I would say, not comfort, but just pure, I would say, knowledge of the system and understanding the ins and outs of it, and the importance of getting aligned and putting your eyes in the right place, I think kicked in more, especially after the first drive. But the guys that were playing, they earned it, and we felt that we can be a better defense if we rotate those guys in and keep them playing a little bit more fresh and at a high level.
You touched on it a little bit with Dante Simpson getting in there, making some plays. As a true freshman, what's allowed him to kind of work his way into the lineup here in the middle point?
Yeah, probably the hardest position to play as a true freshman, getting in there as an interior defensive lineman. He really stood out in spring, got banged up a little bit, so he just started getting his legs underneath him towards the end of camp. And now after, 6 weeks plus, you see that he's starting to get like that snap back. He's starting to come out of his hips more. His first couple of steps are a lot more, he's got more foot and body quickness now. And he's developing more core strength, and he understands the system and his assignments, the calls that go with it, a lot better than he has. So we see a guy that's progressing really well, still has a ways to go, but every day, he's making progress towards just getting better, and we feel very strongly he's going to be a great player.
You've talked a lot about the work ethic of Malachi Tony and how that's allowed him to also be an impactful freshman here. I'm curious, what physical traits you see from him that show up, allow him to be such an effective player, his style on the field, etc.
That position he plays, besides the receiver position, but he aligns outside, inside. He lines up all over the place. You have to have a natural feel for the game. There's nothing robotic about him. Post snap, the picture changes. If it's a route that requires finding green grass, a soft spot, it's got a great feel for that. If he is a perimeter blocker and the picture changes due to a pressure, and now the flat defender's got him out leveraged, he understands half position on that play and will bust his butt to get it there and finish with really good technique and fundamentals. That's the product of, he might be 18 years old, but he's played a lot of football. And if there's something that he doesn't quite know or doesn't feel comfortable with, he spends an extraordinary amount of time learning it. Now you couple that with the fact that he is weight room strong. He's not a frail little guy now. He is, and he's still growing. He's thick, he's strong, he's explosive. He's a weight room and workout junkie. So I think all those things combined, you know, allow him to be, and the mentality, of course, allow him to be a great football player.
After going back and watching film from Saturday, what did you think about the receivers who got more into the mix? You know, Tony obviously had a great game. Josh Moore had some good plays. JoJo's on the field more. Just what do you think of their performance?
Probably what we all see. We see a lot of potential in all those guys, and then we see the areas where we got to get better at, right? One thing that you have to do by mid-season, you have to eliminate any mental mistakes, right? Techniques and fundamental have got to get better, and certainly you can't allow drops to happen. Okay, we had a couple in the game, not the young guys, maybe more the older guys, but we saw improvement. We saw it in practice. The past 2.5 weeks have been much more productive and much more consistent. Now we got to carry all that consistency over to the game, because the details of that position nowadays, especially in some of those condensed formations or in some of the plays that bring an extra guy in the box, those guys are responsible for a lot. It's more than just running around catching the ball. So alignment, assignment's important, splits are important, footwork's important. We saw a lot of progress, a lot of promise in all those guys, and we expect their roles to continue to increase and then to continue to get better.
You talk a lot about, like, in the midpoint of the season, teams got film on everyone and they can make adjustments on you. As it relates to, like, Ruben Bing, right, who's not putting up huge stats, counting stats these past couple games, but still impacting the game. Can you go into just how you're seeing in these recent games how Ruben is impacting the game and maybe how teams are, you know?
Well, you know, I think the grounding was a result of his pressure as well, right? That's a loss of down, and that's as good as a sack, right? A holding penalty also caused by that as well. It changes the way people have to play you, so they have to keep an extra guy in. That's one less receiver they have out, right? Less of a pull on a flat defender. A hook curl player's got cleaner eyes. Also, if you can make them right or left-handed if they choose to run away from him. But when a player causes that much change for an opponent, then maybe you don't make them one-dimensional, but you certainly, you handcuff them on certain things that they like to do. So it's in terms of statistical numbers or whatnot, I think the world's always in love with that stuff because it's a measurement, right? It's a metric. But the best metric for us is the film and the product on the field, and he's playing at an extremely high level that's causing people to play different. And his continued push to get better and better is gonna, it's gonna draw more and more attention. And the statistical part will come with it. The impact is it's not gonna go away. It's only gonna be more and more.
This might be getting in the weeds of it, but time of possession. This is an interesting matchup, time of possession wise, with you guys possessing the ball a lot and SMU's kind of low on the time of possession metric. Does that come into any part of like game planning for an opponent?
I think every aspect imaginable is always brought to the table. By Sunday night, Monday morning, you have to really come to a realization, maybe not all the way there, but pretty strong idea. This is the best way to play to win the game, right? And of course, points and stops are at the forefront of that. And you're looking at a team that scores a lot of points and gets a lot of stops, right? With some really good players that can hurt you with explosive play, but they can methodically drive it down the field when they want to as well. So, and then we feel like we're finding, our groove again offensively in the end of the first half and then the second half of the game. So all those things are taken into account and discussed. Tempo is always something you have to prepare for. Varied tempos are things you have to prepare for. Misplaced personnel, funky formations, right? Opening scripts, all that stuff is taken into account, and certainly we feel that we have a good plan so far. We'll continue working on that.
Mary, you spoke at the beginning, just first time out of Florida, just your thoughts on that, maybe the keys for teams that you found going on the road, playing a road game, different environment.
The process is so similar that the impact of actually getting on a plane or whatnot is not much. I mean, it's actually an extra nap. Like when we get to the hotel, you have an extra nap. And it's an 11 a.m. kickoff, right? Which for us, those are our work hours. We're up early, right? Our wake up times and our treatment and taping times really mimic that of Saturday's contest. So we feel great about that. Just the importance of knowing and understanding that, as opposed to the last several weeks, when you wake up on Saturday, you got to hit the ground running because we're rolling. You're having a pregame meal, you're having your walkthrough, and you're on the bus, and you're headed to the stadium. So, not sure if that answered your question. It was more related to being out of state, but you know, temperature is going to be. It's going to be a great football day, great stadium, great environment against a great program. I mean, it's what college football is all about.
What do you like about Carson Beck's performance?
Consistency, accuracy, you know, decision making, and the ability to improve it even more. We had a chance to really, you know, connect in we scored 6 of the last 7 drives. We could have been 7 for 7. And the opening drive, even though we reduced the amount of offensive pre-snap penalties, we had one on the first drive. And it certainly hurt us. But thought that when we were all on the same page, that the execution was at a much better level, and there's an appetite to continue to get better and improve.
Anything else for Coach? All right. Thank you.
Good? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Well, so I'm using Fireflies to start, like, if I can't draw them, we'll put offset, no. So Fireflies is basically the same thing, but apparently it's more security. But
What's wrong with Honor?
apparently Honor uses everyone's private transcriptions and stuff to train our AI, which my company does not like.
So what's wrong with that?
Because theoretically, if it gets hacked, anyone can see your transcripts.
Some transcripts of.
I mean, yes. I mean, this is a whole, this is a company-wide thing, not just for me, but
Seems fire.
I'm using this app, it's called Fireflies, basically the same thing. And
Free app?
it's free unless you subscribe, obviously, which to get more storage and stuff, you just subscribe. But yeah, apparently it offers, like, I'm in the second tier. I put it in my tier, I don't get those analytics, but if I were to upgrade, I would. We could just find mine. How you doing?
Good.
Question for offensive coordinator Shane Dawson.
combination from the last drive of the first half through the end, 6 or 7, guys score on them. The other one, you're at the 20 and have a chance to just, what did you like from basically the end of the first half to the end of the game about what the offense was able to do?
I mean, we just settled down and started executing. I mean, it wasn't anything, you know, at the beginning of the game, the first drive, we have a good drive going and we have a false start, puts us into a 3rd and long. And so games kind of go that way if you watch college football. Most games are close at halftime. You know, I don't know how much college football that everybody watches, but I sit at the hotel and watch, and most games are close at halftime. Basically, they start at 0-0. Most games start 0-0. So there's a process of like the game takes a lot of different journeys, right? And most games are really close at halftime unless there's just a huge difference in the two opponents. Most conference games there isn't, so halftimes are typically 10-7, 14-10, somewhere around there. And then if one team starts, you know, doing things a certain way better, then it kind of goes from there. The field position was huge. Second half, we played on a short field. That's when games get the way they did. When both teams are driving the whole field, typically the game's going to be like the first half. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
With SMU's defense, one kind of weird thing I noticed is that they're second to last in the nation in passing yards allowed per game, but also have 12 interceptions. I guess, what does that say about their defense?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, they've played some teams that throw the ball a lot. You know, I think that's part of it. They've been in some shootouts. You know, they've been up in some games. Like the Baylor game, they were up, so Baylor was kind of fighting to get back in the game, which that's going to lead to throwing the ball more, taking more chances and all the rest. But I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, it's odd, but I do think the way that their games have unfolded, it's been kind of shootouts in a way, and other teams are trying to get back in the game. And when you try to get back in the game, it's going to be, you know, you're going to have to throw it to try to score. And
then I was looking at like the breakdown of like running directions over the last couple of years, and this year you guys are running up between the tackles a little bit more than you have in the last couple seasons. I guess just I asked Mario the same question, but I guess what kind of goes into the decision making on, you know, the running strategy, I guess?
I mean, nothing. I mean, we try to put together a plan to attack the defense. When you say running up the middle, you know, you do understand that when you're in the shotgun and even when you hand outside zone, it's going to be a B gap run or A gap run like 90-something% of the time with every team across the nation. We do understand that, right? And so the amount of times the ball gets outside the tackle when you're a shotgun team everywhere in the nation is not very high. Or do we understand that? We do. Okay, so with that being the way it is, we probably ran outside zone half the time Saturday. But where does the ball go? It probably goes B gap or A gap. Why? Well, the ball's getting handed here. The O-line's here. So the fact that it has to go all the way around the tackle on outside zone, it's probably not going to happen unless the defense gets out of gap, which they did a couple times. And so I'm 100% good with the ball hitting the A-B gap. I mean, it's just, I don't understand the infatuation of, how do you want me to get the ball outside with the running back? It's a question to you. How do you want me to do it?
I'm not the offensive.
You want me to run option?
Maybe.
Okay, I'll run option with Carson. That's smart. Genius.
Toss sweep.
You can run a toss sweep from underneath. Yeah, we'll go underneath.
How does that impact the defense, though? You know, what you're saying obviously makes total sense, but
Does it?
it does.
Okay.
But you've got A
Just
gap.
wondering. I get asked that question a lot, but I don't think it makes total sense, to be
I
honest with
get
you.
asked nothing
Okay.
more than
Yeah.
this. But like when you have A gap and B gap, how does that impact a defense trying to defend that?
You still got to stretch. So it's where's the A gap go? So I would look at it, if people really want to find the answer and really ask questions, it's where does the A gap go? So if you're running outside zone, the A gap might start where you're at, but it might end up where you're at.
Slides.
Does that make sense? Because you're blocking, if you run outside zone, then the O-line's moving to the right. And so, yeah, the ball starts right here and the guard starts right here, but the ball might end up where you are. But it's still in the A gap or still in the B gap. Does that make sense? And so, but it's moved 6 or 7 yards that way. And so to me, I don't obsess about that nearly as much as y'all do or our fans do. I don't, because ultimately, I understand that, like, when you hand the ball off from the shotgun, most of the time it's going to end up in the A or B gap. It don't matter what run scheme you run. We ran pin and pull 6 times Saturday. It could get outside, but how many times did it? It didn't, because it became a B gap run, because defenses most of the time are going to set the edge to the defense unless they mess up. They messed up a couple times and it spit outside and we got a game. You know, most times it's going to hit in the A or B gap. It doesn't matter what the run game scheme is. You know, counter is going to hit outside sometimes when they wrong shoulder it and the linebacker doesn't fit right. Is that an inside run or an outside run? I'm asking you.
Probably in the eye of the beholder.
Well, counter is an inside run,
Right.
but it ends up
Outside.
outside sometimes when the defense misfits it. You know what I mean? And so it has everything to do with how the defense fits it. Does that make sense? And so you can run outside zone 15 times, which we probably ran it 10 or so times in the game Saturday. It hit outside 1 time. It hit in the B gap most times. It hit in the A gap a handful of times. You know, like duo, you can run duo 10 times. It's probably going to hit in the A gap 6 of those times. It's probably going to spit to the B gap or backside B gap a handful of times. And there's going to be a couple of times where it falls off the table because they misfit it. You know what I mean? So where the ball hits, you know, I can't, the defense dictates that a lot by how they fit. And we use a lot of things to spit the ball on the edge, which creates edges to defenses, right? To me, that's our stretch game, is getting the ball in the flats, which we do approximately 8 to 10 times a game. And so the question about the ball hitting up the middle, I mean, they can keep asking it and y'all can keep asking it, but I'm not going to change what we're doing, because what we're doing is how we want to play football and how really everybody does, you know? And so it's not much different than that, unless you're a quarterback run game team and you run power read or you run option, which we don't run that. I don't run those plays because our quarterbacks are pocket guys, they're throwers. We choose to play offense a different way. Now, if we switched our whole scheme to that, then we could run all those things that you see some people run that have quarterback run game people, but we're not that person.
How much does personnel on the offensive line dictate scheme? You know, obviously if
A lot,
if
no
linemen
doubt.
can move or can't move, will determine
Yeah,
how
we're big up front, and so we move people up front. And so the majority of what we do is inside zone run game, right? Some type of inside zone run game. Now, we do run outside zone, you know, probably half the time. It just depends on the game and depends on the structure of the other team's defense. I'm not just going to run plays and take negative plays either, right? It has to be fit within the game plan and the scheme. But yeah, our identity is we're big, physical, strong people. And so I would say that I was very pleased with the way we ran the ball Saturday. Can we run it better? Absolutely, you know. But I thought Stanford's defense did a good job of keeping everything in front and really not giving up a lot of explosive plays. Even when the ball got out, they were layered well. They got the ball down, so they made us move the ball methodically through the field.
Tony Johnson emerged on Saturday night. What does he bring to the offense for you?
Great kid, just energy and playmaking ability. You saw it from the first play. And he's a guy that's weathered, you know, a couple games of not getting a lot of reps. And I just thought it was important to get him on the field. I mean, he's been doing great at practice. I have all the trust in the world with the kid to do the right thing, to block. I mean, he's an exceptional player, and I just felt like he needed to be on the field.
For Jordan Lyle, obviously we know how much he's been battling to try to get on the field. For him to get a touchdown last game,
Yeah,
what
great.
did that do for him?
Awesome. And that's what, you know, that's what he is. And he can make a guy miss in the hole. And it was in the B gap or C. It might have been in the C gap. There you go. It was a little wider run, so you can tell everybody that one was a little bit wider. But he did like make a guy miss and went and score, which he has the ability to do that. He's an awesome player, and you know, he's finally hitting his groove. Feel good.
And with Carson, obviously, I know you said you weren't worried about him bouncing back, but what did you like about what he did last week?
I thought he played a really good, efficient game. I mean, his completion percentage was really high. You know, didn't put the ball in jeopardy. You know, we had 0 turnovers, which is awesome. Our defense gave us a short field a handful of times, which is great. Special teams did the same. But I thought, you know, he made some really, really good throws. He kept drives going. He kept a drive going with his feet, which I think is huge. We need more of that. And he managed the game really, really well. You know, there was things that go unseen to the naked eye of him changing plays and changing points and changing protections that matter, that keep drives going, that take you out of negative plays. Sometimes repoint the run game, which pushes it, it widens the edge a little bit, which I think everybody is very happy to see. And so, but he does a good job of managing the game. He really does. And he was always in control, and I thought he played really, really well.
Not just this Stanford game, but the whole season. Are you pleased with the explosiveness of the offense? Do you feel like there's more meat on the bone?
I think there's more meat on the bone. I mean, at times we show it, you know. With that being said, though, it has a lot to do with what they do. It's no different. I'm not trying to like, but it has a lot to do with what the defense does. It's no different in the run game. I mean, everybody can get infatuated with where the run game goes, but a lot of it has to do with how they fit. You know, we're running outside zone, but hey, if they're going to set the edge and it's going to be a 3 technique there, the ball is probably going to bend back to the A gap. You know, it's just the way it is. Now, if there's an A gap player in the open B gap, it's probably going to be B gap. And if the defensive end doesn't do his job, it's probably going to be a C gap play, right? It's no different than the pass game. I mean, defenses now, over the past 2 or 3 years, have kept the ball in front across the nation more. You know, they've just made a concerted effort to have what we call a shelf to the defense. And so there's certain defenses you go into the game with and you kind of know. I knew going into that game that we probably wasn't going to have a lot of down the field throws. Just by the nature of how they play defense, they're going to keep the ball in front of them. You know, and they switched their coverages up so much where you couldn't like catch them in quarters and get a post or something. Because I don't know if you remember the catch that Tony made across the middle in the red zone. Well, in that set, typically they play quarters. So I was thinking that we could get the post on that set, but what did they do? They played single high. You know, so they got good coaches too, and they game plan, and they see that there's certain situations that they're probably going to take the middle of the field away, and that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with throwing it underneath and spitting it out to the flats, but we do have plays designed to go down the field in every game. And the fact is that sometimes it doesn't go down the field because of what the defense does. And so, you know, no different than a couple games ago, you could argue that, you know, the ball shouldn't have went down the field. Even though it did, it probably should have went to the flat. And so that's our job and Carson's job at quarterback to see that flow of the defense in the back end and spit it down. But it has a lot to do with what they do to be just direct.
What challenges does SMU defense present?
I think their D-line's really good. You know, that both edge guys can rush the passer. They get some width. They play hard. The interior guys are heavy-handed, thick. They move. They twist. They don't just stay put. You know, linebackers have played a lot. People have thrown for a number of yards on them, but I think that's probably because they get tired of running it and getting nothing. You know what I mean? And so they get you in third down, and they do a good job of rushing the quarterback. One thing that sticks out to them is they're really good on 3rd and short. We're really efficient in short yardage. I mean, we've been 100% most games. This game we didn't get one, and we run it up the middle and get it too. That's odd, isn't it? But they're really good on 3rd and short. You know, oddly good on 3rd and short. So we have to do a good job on 3rd and short to keep drives going.
Similar, just red zone matchup. You guys are good red zone touchdown team.
Yeah.
They're a good defensive red zone touchdown.
They are.
What goes into that?
You know, I think that's the one thing that sticks out to me about their defense. They don't give a lot of points. They might give up some yards, which yards really don't matter. I mean, points are what matters. So, and they'll give up some yards, but they don't give up a lot of points. And so I do think that when we get down there, and we've been good through the course of the season, I think that's one stat that we're really good at is red zone touchdowns. Now, we could be elite at it if we, you know, clean up some stuff, obviously. Maybe run it outside a couple of times. It'd probably be really good. But ultimately, getting down there when the field gets short, being big and physical up front helps. And I do think that you see down there, because some of the runs that Mark made and scored, right? And they were up the middle, hate to admit, but it was like a 9 or 10 yard gain, which is amazing that you can run it up the middle and get a 10-yard gain, right? But one of the reasons that the box was weak because of, they have to respect those guys out there. So we create a little bit of space with just the threat of, like, you saw CJ catch the fade ball. Like, we haven't thrown a lot of them this year, but we've completed most of the ones we've thrown. And so I do think those guys are really good out there at making plays when things get tight. And I think we create some space in the middle because of that.
Great, thank you, Coach Dawson.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
How we doing, guys?
Okay, we'll go right into questions for defensive coordinator Corey Hellerman.
Just looking at SMU's offense, obviously they have the potential to be explosive. Their quarterback he hasn't been running, I don't think, as much this year, but he has the ability to do it. Just what have you seen from them on film?
Yeah, you know, there's design runs for him. There's a lot of opportunities where he can pull the football or, you know, get the ball out in the perimeter with RPO game and, you know, different things. But I think quarterback's a very good football player. I think they have weapons, you know, in the backfield and on the perimeter. They use the tight ends a lot of different ways. You know, 12 personnel looks like 11 personnel or 10 personnel even at times with the different athletes they have at the tight end position. They try to get the wide receivers the ball in space, whether it's on jets or reverses or, you know, get the ball out on screens in the flats right now or quick game. And then the backs, the same thing. Like they have a lot of touches, especially in the pass game along with the run game. I know we were familiar with the one back last year. I think we played him at UCLA. You know, so, but, you know, I think they do a really good job of spreading the football around. It's a little bit different every week. There's not a lot of, you know, set. This is exactly what they do. And, you know, I think it's going to be a little bit Florida State-ish, you know, how they kind of, you know, get the ball to different guys.
What did, in your eyes, did Wake Forest do to slow them down as much as they did?
You know, I thought they did a really good job of keeping the ball in front of them. I thought they did a really good job of tackling. They gave them some different pitchers, and you know, I thought that defense just played really hard and did a good job all day.
After the first drive, Stanford goes down, they scored, and you guys shut them down the rest of it. What stood out from drive 1 through compared to what drive they will do the rest of the game?
I thought our guys really stepped up. After that first drive, we gave up the one run that got out. They ran a counter. We got to set the edge, and we got to make that play. I thought they did a good job staying on track early, and you know, we had a misfit early, and I thought they made a couple good plays. But after that, I think our guys settled down, and I think they really responded and played fast. And I thought we were just a little bit more physical after that first drive, and I think that helped shut them down during the day.
The last couple of weeks, you know, obviously Stanford comes out, scores on their first drive, doesn't score again. Louisville scores on their first 2 drives, only scores 10 more points the rest of the game. I think the players have been saying it's not about adjustments as much as it's about just executing better. How do you view that? Is it about changing things up and adjusting to what you're seeing versus just like do the thing we've been telling you to do?
I think it's a little bit of both. You know, I thought Louisville, you know, I thought we had a couple missed tackles early. I thought we had a misfit early. This week, I thought we did change it up just a little bit off the initial plan. But, you know, I thought in both situations, running back makes a guy miss. They make a better combo block or double team on a play, and they get up to the backside linebacker. You know, every game's a little bit different at how it happens. You know, I thought Stanford did a really good job in that first series. You know, they did a couple different things, and I thought our guys just settled down after that. And I thought maybe we tweaked it a little bit, but I thought we, you know, communicated better after the first series. I thought our guys played a little bit faster after that first series. We had a couple little different wrinkles in there, and I thought our guys really settled down and played fast after that.
A lot of younger guys on the defensive line got playing time with Mesidor out. Just what did you think about the group being able to rotate in there, and then specifically Marquise Lightfoot? What's sort of been your evaluation of them this season?
Yeah, I think, you know, just in general on defense, we've played a lot of players. Like, you go back early in the year, there's 25, 26 guys playing, you know, whether it be Bethune. I thought we played a lot of guys. South Florida, we played a lot of guys in the Florida game. I thought we played a lot of guys in that game. And, you know, I just think we have a lot of guys. The way that we practice and the way that we compete in camp and the way that we rotate our guys in practice, there's a lot of guys I think we can put on the field right now, and you don't think twice about it. Third went in and played really well, played physical. You know, Lightfoot's been a guy has started on a lot of packages all year. You know, I think his role is continuing to grow and get bigger, and I think he's a very dynamic player. You know, a little bit different than what Mez is, but, you know, I think he's a very dynamic player, and I think he gets better every single week in practice. You can see that. You know, Book's a guy too. You know, I think, you know, he did a really good job on a combo block and reappeared through it. And he's a guy that competes in practice, and he's a guy I don't think twice. You put him on the field, and I know he's going to go make the plays. You know, Dante goes in his first play. He's a TFL. You know, Dante's a guy that had a really good spring. You know, played really well in fall camp, and you know, he's a guy, you put him on the field right now, I think he's going to be very successful as he's out there. You know, and other guys, we move him around a lot. We play him in some different positions and different looks. You know, like Armando Blunt's a guy, he plays like 3 different positions in the defense, and he's been very successful at all 3, you know, all year really. Just constantly trying to get him on the field more because he's a very dynamic player for us. But, you know, I think, you know, we're going to continue to rotate guys. We're going to continue to find different roles for guys. And, you know, I think that's one good thing. I think we have guys that compete and continue to develop and get better every single day and every single week, and they'll continue to get more reps on the field.
You really got it going in the second half, particularly the third quarter. To the naked eye, it looked like a massive uptick in just intensity and, like you say, running through the football and swarming and that sort of thing. Was that how it looked to you? That
Yeah, I think-
guys just elevated their effort?
Yeah, like, you know, they had the one explosive on the first series. They get out for a 28-yard gain. After that, I think that was the only explosive we had all day. Later in the game, they had a 21-yard pass, but, you know, I thought our guys, I thought they played physical at the point of attack. I thought they did a really good job up front on the combos and the doubles. And I thought our guys, you know, swarmed to the football all day. It was, you know, we had a 3rd and off track, and the way that we played was very different. You know, I think it was like a 6-yard gain, where last week that was like an 11-yard gain. And I think just confidence and now seeing it again for a different look or a different time. And I think they're, you know, the more we see week in, week out, the more comfortable the guys are getting with every look and playing within the scheme and just really working together. And, you know, the thing that, you know, I liked the most about it was we had a couple different looks, and you could see the communication from all 11 hats on the field. Like, every guy's communicating, every guy's talking, they're working together. And that's where, like, last week we came out, we had a situation where, you know, we're kind of playing one coverage here, one coverage there, one blitz here, and you know, now every single guy's communicating, every guy's working at it, and we're continuing to make an emphasis on that in practice, and I think the guys are working better together every single day, and it's different groups on the field. It might be different safeties with different linebackers, or, you know, we have a bunch of guys that, like, we kind of consider as starters at corner that have been working in and out and doing a really good job for us, and I think they're just getting more comfortable working together each week.
What did you like about Ethan O'Connor in particular? It seems like he's playing more and more every week.
Yeah, he's a guy, you know, I thought he had a really good week against Louisville. I thought last week was his best week of practice. And he's been a guy all year. Like, those, you know, there's really been like 4 guys out there that have been every week. You know, you know, when we discuss it in the staff meetings, we look at them as 4 starters. And they're all going to play. They all do a really good job. You know, each guy has a little bit of different strengths and weaknesses, but he's a guy that last week was his most consistent week in practice, and I thought it showed up, and he played really well in the game.
How have you seen Keontae Scott kind of just get better and better? He's putting up really good numbers in that nickelback role.
Yeah, I think that's a role in this defense that, you know, really everywhere I've kind of been, that's been a guy that's, you know, always had really good production. Just, I don't know if it's the way teams attack us or, you know, the style of player, but obviously he's a very talented football player. He can do a lot of things really well. And, you know, I think the ball he continues to find the football as he plays, and he's been very productive, and he makes the available play when he's in those situations. And he, you know, he's a very smart football player. You know, he's got really good awareness. He understands different splits and formations and where to fit, and you know, there's been little things he's continuing to play better with his hands, you know, setting edges and doing some of those things. But I think he's a very smart, instinctive football player that finds the football.
Teams are being very physical with Bane, like basically outright holding him. What is his response to it when he comes to the sideline, and what is your guys' message to him?
Yeah, I think he's been very positive. I think, you know, he knows going into a game what to expect, and, you know, football's the ultimate team sport where if you focus on him, someone else is going to step up and make the play. And then when you adjust your, you know, focus on someone else, he's going to step up and make the play. And, you know, I thought he's done a very good job of taking on some combos, taking on doubles. They've chipped, you know, they slid to him. You know, I still think, like last week, I thought he was very productive at forcing the quarterback off the spot, did a really good job in the run game, setting edges and knocking the line of scrimmage back. And, you know, I still think he had a huge effect on the pocket last week, you know, forcing the quarterback to move around and get out. And, you know, maybe the stat line wasn't exactly there this week, but when you go through and you watch how he played, I mean, I thought he you know, did a very good job at the point of attack in the run game, and I thought he really affected the pocket in the pass game last week.
From a tempo standpoint, does SMU, are they similar to anyone that you guys have faced to this point?
Yeah, I think it's going to be similar to, Florida State, where I think they're going to go fast at times. I think there's going to be other times they may not go as fast. We're going to see a lot of different, or we're going to see a couple different personnel groupings, but we're going to see a lot of different pitchers. Where the tight end might be flexed out, the tight end might be in the core. They're going to do some different things with the backs, trying to get the ball to the backs out in space, sometimes in empty or sometimes on the perimeter, sometimes out of the backfield. And, I think at times it's going to be very fast, and I think at times they may slow it down a little bit. Last week, I felt like, in that Wake Forest game, I thought they went slower in the second half. I thought in the first half they went a little bit faster. There's other games where you can see it looks like it's lightning fast. The chains are still getting set in the background. The officials are still setting the ball, and everyone's standing over the football ready to go. So I think we'll see different tempos as the game goes.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.